The CO Grand Mansion overlooked the glittering skyline of Seoul, standing like a palace above the city. Black Rolls-Royces and armored SUVs lined the circular driveway while suited guards monitored every gate. Inside, crystal chandeliers reflected across white marble floors, and rare artwork decorated walls that had witnessed deals worth billions. This wasn't just a billionaire's home. It belonged to Seo Do-jin, the most feared Korean mafia boss in South Korea. Power followed him everywhere. Money obeyed him. Even his enemies lowered their voices when speaking his name. Yet, the one person who once owned his heart no longer lived inside this mansion. 3 years ago, the estate was preparing for the biggest celebration of the year. Business leaders, politicians, celebrities, and powerful families were arriving one after another. Servants hurried through the halls. Luxury cars continued entering the gates. Inside his private office, Do-jin adjusted his black suit. His assistant bowed. "Sir, the guests are waiting." "What about my wife?" "Mrs. Seo is in the ballroom with young Master Ethan." Do-jin nodded. "I'll be there." Just then another assistant rushed in. "Sir." "What?" "A special guest has arrived." "Who?" The assistant hesitated. "Miss Yoon-ara." The room fell silent. Do-jin slowly stood up. He hadn't heard that name in years. Meanwhile, downstairs, Hannah Brooks gently straightened her little son's jacket. Ethan smiled. "Mom, do I look handsome?" "You look perfect. Will Dad sit with us tonight?" She smiled. "I'm sure he will." The boy reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded drawing. "I made this for him." It showed 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a bright sun. "Our family," he whispered proudly. Hannah kissed his forehead. "He'll love it." Outside the mansion, a convoy of black luxury SUVs suddenly sped toward the entrance. The guards immediately opened the gates. One vehicle stopped. A woman stepped out, elegant, confident, wearing a stunning red dress, Yoon-ara, the woman Seo Do-jin had loved before his marriage. Guests immediately began whispering. "Isn't that his first love? What is she doing here? I thought she left Seoul years ago." Inside the ballroom, Hannah noticed everyone looking toward the entrance. She turned. Her smile slowly disappeared. Do-jin was already walking toward Ara. For a moment, the music seemed to fade. He stopped in front of her. "Ara." She smiled softly. "It's been a long time." Then she embraced him. Camera flashes exploded across the ballroom. At the same moment, Ethan excitedly held his drawing. "Mom, Dad is over there." Before Hannah could stop him, the little boy ran across the ballroom. "Dad!" Do-jin turned his head. He saw his son. He saw the drawing. But before he could respond, reporters surrounded him and Ara with cameras and questions. The moment disappeared. Ethan slowed to a stop. He looked at his father, then at the smiling woman beside him. Quietly, he lowered the drawing. Across the room, Hannah's heart sank. She walked over and gently took Ethan's hand. "It's okay." The boy looked up. "Did I do something wrong?" "No." "Then why didn't Dad hug me?" She couldn't answer. Suddenly, loud screeching echoed from outside. A luxury sports car lost control near the mansion gates and sped toward the arriving guests. People screamed and scattered. Security teams rushed into action. Within seconds, black SUVs blocked the path while guards escorted families to safety. Do-jin instinctively turned toward the commotion. For one terrifying moment, he couldn't see Hannah or Ethan anywhere. His expression changed. Hannah? Ethan? But by the time order was restored, they were gone. Only a small folded piece of paper remained on the marble floor. Do-jin picked it up. It was Ethan's drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands. Across the top, written in a child's handwriting, were the words, "Dad, I saved you a place next to us." And at that exact moment, a servant rushed toward him. "Sir, Mrs. Seo's car has just left the mansion." Do-jin froze. He had no idea that this goodbye would last for 3 years. 3 years later, the Seo organization's headquarters towered over the financial district of Seoul. Its glass walls reflected the morning sun, while dozens of luxury vehicles entered the underground garage. Executives from across Asia waited for one man's arrival, Seo Do-jin. The Korean Mafia boss stepped out of his black limousine without saying a word. His bodyguards surrounded him, but everyone noticed the same thing. The powerful man who once smiled at victory no longer smiled at all. Inside the boardroom, a director proudly announced, "Sir, our company has become the most valuable investment group in the country." Everyone applauded. Du-Jin simply replied, "Next agenda." Another executive stood. "We've acquired 3 new hotels." "Good. The chairman of the Park family wants dinner with you." "Decline." The room became silent. His assistant, Kang Min-soo, understood. Nothing interested his boss anymore. Not money, not power, not success. Across the city in a quiet neighborhood, Hannah Brooks walked her son to school. Life was simple now. No mansion, no servants, no luxury cars. Just a mother and her son building a peaceful life together. Ethan had grown taller over the past 3 years. He carried his backpack proudly. As they reached the school gate, he suddenly asked, "Mom, yes? If Dad wanted to find us, would he know where to look?" Hannah paused. "I don't know." He nodded. "I stopped waiting anyway." She looked away before he could see the tears forming in her eyes. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Kang Min-soo entered Du-Jin's office carrying a sealed envelope. "Sir, what is it?" "We found something." Du-Jin looked up immediately. "What?" A private investigator located a woman named Hannah Brooks. His chair moved back instantly. "Where?" "The report only says she was seen in Seoul 3 days ago." 3 days? "Yes." "Why am I only hearing about this now?" Min-soo lowered his head. "Someone intercepted the investigation." Du-Jin's expression hardened. "Who? We don't know." At that exact moment, Hannah and Ethan boarded a city bus after school. The weather was bright. People chatted happily. Everything seemed normal. Then Ethan noticed something outside. "Mom." She looked through the window. A black SUV had been following the bus since the previous intersection. She ignored it. Minutes later, another identical SUV appeared ahead. The bus driver frowned. "That's strange." The vehicle stayed nearby but never got too close. When the bus stopped, Hannah quickly stepped off with Ethan and entered a crowded shopping street. The SUVs disappeared into traffic. She exhaled. "They're gone." But high above the street, someone watched from inside a nearby cafe. A man lowered his binoculars and made a phone call. "I've confirmed it. The woman and the boy are still together." At the CO headquarters, another package arrived. No sender, no address. Only Du-Jin's name. He opened it. Inside was a recent photograph. His hands froze. It showed Hannah standing outside a school. Beside her was a teenage boy. The boy looked almost exactly like him. Du-Jin stared at the picture for seconds. Then he whispered, "Ethan." His assistant looked shocked. "Sir?" But Du-Jin wasn't listening anymore. He grabbed his coat and headed for the elevator. "Prepare the cars. Where are we going?" He looked at the photograph one last time. "I'm bringing my family home." Just as the elevator doors closed, his phone rang. An unfamiliar voice said calmly, "If you truly love your wife and son, stop looking for them, because someone else found them first." The black convoy sped through the streets of Seoul, weaving between traffic as sirens from the escort vehicles cleared the road. Inside the lead car, CO Do-jin stared at the photograph in his hand. It showed Hannah standing beside Ethan outside a school. The boy's smile looked painfully familiar. For 3 years, Do-jin had convinced himself that time would heal his regrets. He was wrong. Every second only made them heavier. "Sir," Kang Min-soo said from the front seat, "our team traced the photograph." "Where?" "A district in western Seoul." "Take me there. We're already on our way." Do-jin looked out the window. "I don't care how much it costs." Min-soo nodded. "I know. No." Do-jin's voice became firm. "I want my family back." At the same time, Hannah sat inside a small cafe near Ethan's school. She stirred her coffee without drinking it. Across from her sat her closest friend, Grace. "You've been nervous all morning?" Hannah sighed. "I feel like someone is watching us." Grace lowered her voice. "Do you think it's him?" "I don't know. And if it is?" Hannah looked toward the window, where Ethan was laughing with classmates. He had 3 years. Grace remained silent. Meanwhile, Ethan finished soccer practice and walked toward the school gate. He noticed a shiny black sports car parked across the street. It looked expensive. Its windows were tinted. The engine never turned off. For a moment, the driver seemed to be watching him. Ethan felt uncomfortable and quickly joined his mother. The car drove away. He didn't know that inside sat one of Dojin's investigators. He also didn't know that another vehicle had been following that investigator. Someone else was interested in him. Back at the CO organization headquarters, Min-Soo rushed into Dojin's office carrying another file. "Sir, what now? Our cybersecurity team found something. What is it?" The school records didn't disappear. Dojin looked up. They were deleted. By whom? We traced the access. Min-Soo hesitated. It came from someone inside our own organization. The room fell silent. Dojin slowly stood. "You're telling me someone in my own house hid my family from me?" "That's what the evidence suggests." His expression darkened. "Find out who." Before we continue, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next, because the next chapter will reveal a shocking secret that changes everything. Now, let's continue the story. That evening, rain covered the streets of Seoul. Hannah and Ethan entered a bookstore after dinner. Ethan wandered toward the history section while Hannah searched for a novel. Suddenly, the lights would flickered. The store became unusually quiet. Outside, 2 black SUVs stopped at opposite ends of the street. Customers looked through the windows. One whispered, "What's happening?" Within seconds, the SUVs drove away again. No one got out, no one spoke, but Hannah felt her heart racing. She grabbed Ethan's hand. "We're leaving." "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing." But she knew something had changed. Across the city, Dojin finally received the report he had been waiting for. He opened the folder. Inside was an old hospital document dated 3 years earlier. His eyes stopped on one line, emergency contact. Hannah Brooks below it was another line. Child accompanying patient, Ethan C.O. Dojin froze. He whispered, "He still carries my name." His hands trembled. For the first time in years, tears filled his eyes. He had missed birthdays, school events, countless nights, yet his son had never stopped carrying his surname. Min-Soo broke the silence. "Sir? What?" "There is one more document." He handed it over. Dojin read it once, then again. His breathing became heavier. According to the report, Hannah had visited the CO mansion exactly 3 years ago. The morning after she left, she had come back. She had waited outside for almost 2 hours. Then she walked away forever. Dojin looked at Min-Soo. "Why was I never told?" Min-Soo lowered his head. "Because someone ordered the guards to say you weren't home." "Who gave that order?" Before Min-Soo could answer, every phone in the office began ringing at once. A security officer burst through the doors. "Sir, what happened? The woman and the boy, what about them?" "They've disappeared." At the same moment, an anonymous text message appeared on Dojin's phone. It contained only one sentence. "If you want to see your wife and son again, come alone, and tell no one." CISO Dojin looked at the anonymous message one last time. "If you want to see your wife and son again, come alone." He went. The location was an old riverside cafe where he and Hannah had spent countless evenings before they got married. He searched every corner, but she wasn't there. The owner handed him a small envelope. "She came earlier," the old man said softly. "She waited for a while, then left." Inside was only one sentence. 3 years ago I waited for you. This time I chose not to." Dojin closed his eyes. He finally understood. The punishment for breaking someone's heart wasn't losing money or power. It was living with regret. Days passed. For the first time in years, the Korean Mafia boss stopped filling his schedule with endless meetings. He canceled dinners. He postponed business deals. Instead, he quietly drove through places Hannah once loved. The flower market, the riverside park, the little cafe where they had shared breakfast before work. Every place reminded him of memories he had ignored. Meanwhile, Hannah focused on raising Ethan. Their apartment wasn't luxurious, but it was full of warmth. Every evening they cooked together. Every weekend they visited different parts of Seoul. To Ethan, happiness wasn't measured by money, it was measured by time. One afternoon, while organizing old boxes, Ethan found a family photo. A younger Hannah stood smiling beside a handsome man in a black suit. He looked at it carefully. "Mom." She turned around. "Yes?" "Who's this?" She froze. For several seconds she couldn't answer. Finally she whispered, "Someone I loved very much." Ethan looked again. "He looks familiar." She gently took the photo from his hands. "Finish your homework first." But that night she couldn't sleep. Across the city, Dujin entered his mansion. The enormous dining hall could seat 30 people. Yet he always ate alone. He looked at the empty chair beside him and remembered Ethan asking years ago, "Dad, can we eat together tonight?" He had answered, "Later." That later never came. The following weekend, Ethan's school announced a family sports festival. Every student was encouraged to attend with a parent. His classmates excitedly talked about their fathers joining the race. Ethan stayed quiet. His teacher noticed. "Will someone come with you?" He smiled politely. "My mom will. But what about your dad?" He looked down. "I don't know where he is." That same afternoon, Dujin received an invitation to sponsor the very same school festival. His assistant smiled. It would be good for the company's image. Dujin accepted without hesitation. He had no idea that Hannah and Ethan would also be there, and just as Hannah read the event notice at home, she saw the sponsor's name printed across the top. CO Group. Her hands slowly tightened around the paper. She whispered, "No, it can't be him." Neither of them knew that in just a few days, their paths were about to cross again. CO Dujin sat alone in his office, staring at the anonymous message for what felt like the 100th time. "If you want to see your wife and son again, come alone." He looked up at Kang Min-soo. "You've been with me for 10 years. "Yes, sir." "You've never lied to me." "No, sir." Dujin slowly placed the phone on his desk. "Tell me the truth." Min-soo lowered his head. "I sent the message." The room became silent. "You?" "Yes." "Why?" Min-soo finally looked into his boss's eyes. "Because for 3 years, I've watched the most powerful man in Korea pretend he doesn't have a broken heart." Dujin said nothing. "I wasn't trying to trick you, sir. I only wanted you to stop hiding behind work and admit that you still love your family." For the first time, Dujin couldn't find the words to respond. That evening he drove alone through Seoul. No bodyguards, no convoy, no meetings. He passed the park where Hannah used to buy ice cream for Ethan. He remembered Ethan laughing as he chased pigeons across the square. Back then, Dujin had been answering business calls. He never joined them. Now the park was full of families. He sat on a bench and watched fathers playing with their children. Quietly, he whispered, "I should have been there." Across the city, Hannah folded Ethan's school uniform for the next day. Ethan entered the room carrying a notebook. "Mom, what is it?" "Our teacher gave us homework." "What kind?" "We have to write about the person we admire most." Hannah smiled. "So who will you write about?" He thought for a moment. "You." She laughed softly. "And second place?" Ethan looked out the window. "I don't know my dad, but maybe." He paused. "Maybe he's trying to find us." Hannah's smile slowly faded. The next morning, CO Group headquarters received an invitation from a prestigious academy in Seoul. The principal requested a donation for the school's annual Family Day festival. Min-soo placed the invitation on Dojin's desk. "You usually decline these." Dujin opened it. Then his eyes stopped. The school logo looked familiar. He turned the page. There, among the participating students, he saw a name, Ethan Brooks. His heart raced. He read it again, then again. He whispered, "Ethan." Min-soo stepped closer. "Sir?" Dujin stood immediately. "Cancel everything tomorrow. You have meetings with foreign investors. They can wait. You have a dinner with the chairman of Han Group. They can wait too. Where are you going?" Dujin folded the invitation carefully and placed it inside his jacket. His voice was calm. "I'm going to see my son." At that exact moment, across the city, Hannah also received a notice from the school. It read, "Special guest sponsor, CO Group Chairman, CO Dojin." Her hands froze. The paper slipped onto the table. Ethan picked it up and smiled. "Mom, isn't this the same man from our old family photo?" And that's where this chapter ends. But the story is far from over. What do you think will happen next? Will they find their way back to each other? Will the truth finally come out? Or will one decision change their lives forever? Share your prediction in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for part 2, because the next chapter will reveal everything.